Okay, how y'all doing today? This is the Narrative Matters. I am your favorite rapper's favorite rapper, the best film writer and director in St. Louis. Facts, award-winning, published author, journalist, activist, business owner, Lacey G. Souldier Turner. Today, I am here with one of the most iconic figures of hip hop, scholars, speaker, one of the greatest actors to me, growing up. Christopher Play Martin, welcome.
Where's that person at?
I'm looking at him right now.
I thought they were behind me, but well, about this wall. But I appreciate that from your. We'll call it prophetic from your lips to God's ears. We'll call most of that prophetic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. Able to come to the platform, and appreciate you letting me being able to write an article on you also.
Well, thank you for your patience. I mean, a lot of your viewers and listeners don't know. It was a while in the making for this to take place due to my schedule and all. And even now, here we are in a hotel suite. That's my life. So, thank you for your patience, and it's glad to be at your house. I'm glad to be at your house party.
Hey, no problem. All right, let's get right into it. So, for my viewers who don't know, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Queens, New York. First, my parents lived in Jamaica, Queens, and then they eventually moved because they outgrew their spot with myself and my three other sisters to to an historical place called East Elmhurst, Queens. The Hearst Corona. The East Elmhurst was called the Hearst. Then you had Corona, but we could get into it later. But a lot of other people beside myself came out of that area. But yeah, Jamaica, Queens.
Okay. And I saw that you said when you were growing up, you was looking up, I guess, to the gangster, you saying it was black exploitation films, and you say you got kicked out of 5 schools and you was a stick-up kid. What advice, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and they call us each year to say we're in the top 3, violent cities. What is your advice to people who like are committing like crimes and think that's the only way out? You know what I'm saying? What is your advice to them as you done that and then came up out of it?
Well, I mean, I don't glorify it when I tell that story. I come from the perspective of being a accident waiting to happen, an eventual statistic, jail or early death. I was a fool about it. Really, just a very stupid kid. Uh, I didn't have the luxury that most have today, where you can aspire and be able to have a reference of a rapper or a performer, entertainer. There was no such thing as what would be eventually called hip hop then. So my father being active and successful to a degree in the streets, me looking up to people at the time such as Nicky Bonds, Guy Fisher, Fat Cat, Alpo, Bimmy. There's a whole list of those were your what we call your ghetto superstars, so to speak. So based on watching my father in the home, who was very much like the ones you saw or I watched in those black exploitation films, Superfly, Hell Up in Harlem, Cotton Comes to Harlem, all of those, I was putting from a very undeveloped mind or a very naive and ignorant and arrogant mind, putting 2 and 2 together. Oh, what I do see of my father and what I have witnessed, what I see on the film is filling in the gaps of what I see at home, because he's dressing like them, he has money like them, uh, who he rides with is like them in the movies. And then on top of that, you got the other elements I speak of, the Alpos, the Fat Cats, the Pappy Masons, and all of them, and they getting it. They're getting money. They're getting what we call now the bag, that bag. So I thought that was my destiny. I wasn't trying to hear what was going on in school because they wasn't presenting anything in front of me that was relatable. They weren't showing me a house with no heat sometimes. They wasn't showing me when, a black family, mine in particular, had to make ends meet and really struggle. And my parents was excellent. Our Christmases was great. Our birthdays was great. But then when I became of age, and went through schools and, you know, wanted to get what I saw cats in the streets had, the jewelry, the money, the cars, especially the women, all of that. That meant was what I wanted. And that was my inspiration, aspiration, and my roadmap, so to speak. But as I speak along with that, my testimony, and it's true that God used hip hop to save my life because I was around at the time of the birth of it. We started hearing about it in Queens, and I was interested in what was attracting the girls, what was getting the girls' attention. So I wasn't serious about it. I just happened to be, some would say, good at it. But so, you know, fast forward somewhat to today. So that's that.
So I was gonna ask you that too. You were there for the beginning of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, how was that? Like, where did you hear it first, and how did you get into it?
Well, I was introduced to it really, or what allured me to it unknowingly was really the fashion. I liked the gear a lot, what was popular back then. The first high school that I went to and got kicked out of was a high school of art and design. I ended up becoming befriended by, interestingly enough, four other guys, and each one of them was from each borough of New York. So I was unknowingly exposed to their culture, their way. And, you know, and they, you know, at the time, my father was in prison doing quite a stretch for bank robbery. So for me, when, you know, people in that life would have to be in prison, things would get kind of tight with the money. You had to hold it down till they get out or something else happens. So for me, I really didn't have what these other four guys and other people in the culture had. They had the latest coat, which back then was the sheepskin, the quarterfield, all of that, the latest gear when it came to the kicks, the British Walkers, the Pumas, the Adidas. Nikes wasn't even a factor then. It was no such thing. It was Nike. Wasn't no such thing as Nikes. It was
No
Adidas.
Jordans.
None of that. It was not, because Jordan wasn't even then around that time. So you're looking at Adidas, Pumas, and if you couldn't afford those, the Adidas were more expensive. They were $45. You could do the Pumas for $36. But the ones that was acceptable and affordable was what you call the uptowners. They were Pro-Keds with the three stripes, and you could get them in different colors to match your gear. So they had all of that. But then they would, like I said, they befriended me. They allowed me to hang out with them for what reason, I don't know, because I was like the nerd at the time, and just not up to date with the latest gear. But I hung out with them, and they were artists, incredible artists, drawing, painting, airbrushing, graffiti, the whole nine. But what introduced me to the music was a track called Apache. And it became a big mystery because every time it either just played or I had left and it did play, it took what felt like forever for me to finally hear that record with that break beat that was pretty much the unofficial anthem of breakdancers. Now I'm getting slowly but surely getting into it. And remember, it wasn't called hip hop.
Yeah.
That's why when I teach it and I speak on it, I say what eventually would be known as hip hop. So that was my introduction to it. And then hanging out with a group of cats as I began to get more momentum, more becoming my own, more credible, yada, yada, yada. I started hanging out with a group of cats in my own neighborhood where we were fearless. We went to other boroughs where some
Could you
Queens
say that
cat,
name
unless you
again?
had,
Could you say that name again? You had it was freezing out.
oh, I forgot what part you're talking about.
The group, you said you hung around with a group of people.
Oh, I hung around with a group of friends from my neighborhood, and we were fearless in regards to we were so into what was going on in other boroughs. We didn't care about what trouble or getting jumped would happen, because the thing about Queens cats is you had to really have heart or know somebody or did time with somebody or had a family member that lived in the Bronx or lived in Brooklyn or lived in Harlem. We really didn't have that. One guy I hung out with, he did have a cousin up in Harlem, but we ventured out to where a lot, well, I wouldn't say a lot, where some Queens cats wouldn't dare to go. We were there. So, that was my introduction to what would eventually be called hip hop.
Okay, so they didn't have a name for it at all.
No, it's just, are they jamming in the park?
Okay.
Who's rocking in the park? The MC thing kind of came later. You did have the break dancing and stuff. It was a party. Are they jamming? Are they jamming in the park?
Yeah.
Who's playing in the park?
Okay. So one thing I found interesting is you and Kid, both names are Christopher. So how did you meet Kid, Christopher Reed, and how did Kid, the name Kid and Play come about?
Kid was somebody I began to notice from afar. We had a mutual friend by the name of Romeo, Jerome Doss, who played a lot of basketball, and Kid played ball. I didn't play ball. I'm not athletically inclined at all, and neither do I want to be. But and even at the time, but during the daytime, him and Kid would be playing ball in favorite park that everybody went to, and I wouldn't come out till like we're talking summertime or even winter, but in particular when I tell this part, summertime, I wouldn't really come out until the sun started going down because it was crazy hot. We had our heat waves and stuff. And plus, I didn't want to be all sweated up in whatever gear that I felt good about every day. So when I came to the park to meet up with Rome, Kid would be leaving because his father was really, really tight, was really, really, what do you call it?
Strict.
Very strict. So he had to go home. And then I'd take over. My shift would be with our dude Rome, and we'd hang out all hours of the night, be up to no good, all of that kind of stuff. So eventually, as time went on, kids started hanging out more. I started getting somewhat impressed with him because no matter what he looked like, which he'll even tell you himself, very nerd-like, very thick glasses he had to wear, afro, light skin, almost white, but he always had on the tightest gear, whether it be Adidas, back then was the Jordache or the Calvin Klein jeans. His game was tight for a nerd. And, after a while, it just got to the point where we just started hanging out, especially if Rome wasn't around. And I began to find him intriguing because the way he talked, words he used and stuff, I saw an opportunity in that to use those words to be able to engage with a different class of women now, or girls. And the same thing running game in the streets. It could make you exceptional. There was a cat, the Intelligent Hoodlum from Queensbridge. That was his thing back in the days. He was called the Intelligent Hoodlum, part of that whole Queensbridge crowd in Queens. But yeah, I just wanted to be able to be diverse, knowledgeable, for whatever I was up to at the time, to be as diverse as possible.
Okay. So how did y'all get your record deal? I would say that once y'all,
Oh, it wasn't an overnight process. We used to be called Fresh Force. We did what you called cover records back then. Run DMC had a big record out back then called My Adidas. We did a record that did really, really good in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Philadelphia, and believe it or not, Ohio. But it was called She's a Skeezer, or My Skeezer, I'm sorry. Yeah, and we used the My Adidas beat. We did a parody. It was pretty much what you call a parody of, not a cover record, like a parody of another hit record. That began to be kind of popular then, that whatever big record was out, somebody would do a parody of it. There was another record out called by Falco called Rock Me Amadeus. We did a record called Rock Me. That did really good. We had an original cut called All Hail the Drum. That did good. So the very favorite top hip hop clubs back then, we were regulars, and people loved us. We had hits in those areas, which was the only areas or cities and states that even counted in, because nobody else was recognizing what would be called hip hop. So just as long as New York was loving us, Jersey was loving us, especially Philly. No one gives Philly really the credit they're due. Philadelphia was responsible for breaking hip hop on mainstream radio first before New York did. So they showed us love. And like I said, believe it or not, Ohio, that place showed us love. We did a lot of gigs out there. It
Midwest.
was interesting. So with all that being said, is that then when at the same time, pretty much simultaneously, our other childhood friend, Herbie Lovebug, was working on a school project, and that project would be known as Salt and Pepper. But back then they were called the Super Nature MCs. They weren't called Salt and Pepper at first. It was only out of a record company dispute. And the fact that when people heard the record, it was called the Showstopper. It was an answer. Like I said, doing mock records. Their record was from Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick's The Show, but theirs was called The Showstopper. So there's a record in there. I mean, there's a rhyme in there that said we're the Salt and Pepper MCs, but it was just a rap. They weren't saying that was their names. So for some reason, audiences or listeners did the name Supernatural MCs didn't take. They just remembered that rhyme saying we're the Salt and Pepper MCs, and that's how they became Salt and Pepper. So from that, then it was time for us. We were running our course. We were on the label Sutra Records, which was the same record label that the Fat Boys was on. We ran our course with them. Herbie had a hit. Record companies was coming at him, wanting to know what was next. Did he have any other groups, any other things down the pike? Lo and behold, his childhood friends that we were all still tight is Kid and Play. So we changed the name from Fresh Force to Kid and Play and had a new record deal with Select Records, and the rest is history.
So was Do This My Way your first music video?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was.
How did you feel when you did your first music video? You know what I'm saying? Like,
It was
were you
exciting, but
excited?
it was exciting, but that wasn't my first music video. Not me personally.
Okay.
I got the bug and got what would you call fame and noticed a lot. My first music video was Salt and Pepper's Tramp. I played the Tramp in that video.
Yeah. Is that why they were saying in well, I ain't gonna even say. Is that why you acted like that in all the house parties and all that?
Oh, I was before that. I was that before all of that. I mean, my full name is Playboy,
Okay.
but close friends called me Play for short. So, you know, there was some interesting things that took place and summers that took place, but, you know, everybody knew me as Playboy. And when it was time to be Kid and Play, we just stuck with the short version because of the fact that, you know, close friends called me Play. I'll never forget the first time my name was official. I went to the very popular #1 club for hip hop at the time called the Latin Quarter. And DJ Red Alert was spinning that night. And when I walked in the door, I guess I underestimated what I was doing out there in them streets and whatever. I guess my name, you know, whatever you call it, preceded me.
Yeah, proceed.
And when I walked in the door on the microphone, you got my man Playboy in the house. And I was like, whoa, I'm official like this. But yeah, so Play is short for Playboy and Kid's full name. We used to be, before we were Fresh Force, Kid and I were in 2 separate crews. I was in a crew called Quicksilver and the Super Lovers. And the theme to that group was all of the MCs had legendary lover names. Herbie Love Bug. A lot of people might not know, there was a lot of Disney movies called Herbie the Love Bug. It was about an actual Volkswagen, pretty much people's version, I guess, of Transformers. And then you had Prince Charm. That was our Hispanic representation, very good looking cat, curly hair, the whole 9. Hispanic representation doesn't get the credit it deserves in hip hop history, but in every major group, you know, you had Hispanic representation, whether it be an MC or a DJ. We had Romeo, who I had already mentioned to you, Jerome, and then our DJ was Quicksilver. So I had already had that persona going on through an interesting series through a very interesting series of events that took place in my life, and it was known in the neighborhood, and I guess kind of got out there in them streets. Kid was part of a group called the Turnout Brothers. His full name is actually The Kid Cool Out. So that's why we shortened to Kid, because everybody who knew him didn't call him that full mouth name. You know, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
We just call him Kid, but his full name is Kid Cool Out, or The Kid Cool Out. So then when it was time to get that deal with Select Records with Herbie and it was time to come up with a name, so let's just call you Kid and Play. And it was funny because I was like, why is my name last?
I can't be playing Kid.
No, I think they tricked me because they were like, you know, well, more things rhyme with the word play. And I was like, okay. So yeah, so that's how that came about.
Okay. Was it the goal to have, you know, I guess what they would say, the clean image y'all had? Or did that just happen?
Kid and Play didn't have a clean image. Kid and Play, especially not in, you know, behind the scenes. What a lot of people don't realize was you had something called FFC relations then. You couldn't do music videos the way y'all know music videos now. So if someone's coming to you and saying, hey, we're ready to do this, pay you this much money, you're going to do this, you're going to travel or whatever, but these are the guidelines. What are you, stupid? You know what I'm saying? So we cursed like the rest of them. We got it, girls, like the rest of them. When we went on tour with everybody we've been on tour with, it was about who was getting the women and all of that. So like a Heavy D, like a Salt and Pepper and all of them before it, you had FCC guidelines. You couldn't do none of the stuff that's done on radio and television today. But if that's what people wanted to, if that's what they wanted to say or think of us, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to go, no, I don't want that because I want to be hard, or you'll need to know how I'm really like. No, it's like, it's a job. It's like if you have a regular job, you got to go by the employer's guidelines. You got to be in at 9, you get off at 5. This is what you got to wear. This is what you got to say. This is how you got to carry yourself. Now, when you go home, are you wearing that uniform? Are
No,
you acting like that?
no.
No, you're doing what you're doing for a paycheck. So, but I get it though. But I don't want to take on that whole clean thing because we weren't angels. I mean, even when you look at the movie House Party and stuff, that ain't no PG movie.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, I get it though. I'm not disputing it, but let's be kind of realistic about it.
Yes. Okay. So where did the famous kick step move start from? That everybody
Oh,
loved, everybody was doing.
Kid and I, like everyone else back then, loved to party, loved to dance. Dances was made up, things was done, organically, impromptu. You do it by accident. It's like, hey, that's dope. Do it again, and you get a reaction. So really, it just came out of the synergy of a lot of the dancers that we love, hung out with on the regular. The group in particular was a group called Nonstop with hi-hat, Nadine, no, hi-hat, Swatch, and Little Bit. There's 3 young ladies. They're in that music video getting funky. And if there's a move they do in it that's kind of similar to the kick step, but it's not the same, but it involves the kind of swinging of the feet and the legs, which was very clever. So when it was time for us to finally get a break and do our first tour, which was called the Slammin' 88 tour. And the co-headliners was Salt and Pepper and Keith Sweat, and like one of the best tours ever. I mean, it was a huge tour with a lot of people on it. And when the gentleman who was also responsible, the promoter for that, he was also the promoter for the historical first rap concert or tour, which was called Fresh Fest. So he had this tour, Salt and Pepper being our sisters and our friends. They, pretty much took us on this tour. So we were kind of like the opening act. But we were having music videos done then, and we very much wanted to have our dancers featured in our music videos to come on tour with us, but they weren't giving us that kind of money to afford it. So now Kid and I are forced, knowing that anything we're going to do in front of people, they're going to expect what they saw from the music videos. So that's why we incorporated dancing in our shows and in our music videos and all of that. So that's how that came about.
Right. So how did, like I said, y'all, everybody loved y'all. How did y'all wind up getting into a beef with Vanilla Ice and Luke?
Oh, I wasn't in no beef with them. That wasn't even a consideration. It's like, I myself personally, maybe Kid would feel a certain way about it, but my mentality coming from the streets, if you want to put it that way, how I was brought up and stuff, it's like,
it's not real beef.
No, it's not real beef. I mean, if it was real beef, I could see if it went on to more records and all that, but we friends with these people, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I never looked at it like that. If anything, it was another opportunity to seize attention or let's whatever, but there was no thought. I mean, I don't even really remember it with Vanilla Ice really, and with Luke, that was a thing, but that was a misunderstanding. With Luke, we did a special, or we did an interview on BET, and Salt and Pepper was feeling a certain kind of way about their choices, and they voiced it. Kid and I just happened to be there in the shot. I think it was Video Soul or something like that, where we were there. So it was like guilt by association. We never said anything bad about them, but because of that. So when Luke made his joint, he got into all of us, but I was a hoe. Yeah. So when he said, play ass hoe or whatever, I'm like, yeah, I am. You know what I'm saying? So whatever. Maybe if I was called something else, maybe, but yeah, like, okay, yeah, so it was not a thing. And, though, like I said, I didn't never really get with Luke or be with Luke after that. I think Kid hung out with him a couple of times at some strip clubs. We've been touring with Vanilla Ice on this I Love the 90s tour. And as far as whoever else you mentioned, no, it was all good.
Oh yeah, that was it. So I heard you did not want to do movies. Like you like,
No, I didn't want to do House Party.
okay, you didn't want to, so you ain't mind doing movies, but you ain't. So is it true that?
No, it
Go ahead.
wasn't about not wanting to do movies. You got to think about where I came from.
Mm,
I never even imagine, I guess you would call this under low self-esteem. I would never even imagine I would have, it never entered my mind that I would ever do a movie, much less be in a movie. That was just outside of the realm of any possibilities. So when we were approached for House Party, I'm a business-minded person.
mhm.
I'm looking at the history and the track record of hip hop movies, and they didn't do well. Wild Style, cult film, independent film, definitely a cult classic, favorite. Any hip hop historian needs to have that movie in their collection, Wild Style. But then you had Beach Street. That was disappointing to real hip hop heads. We weren't crazy about the casting, little disappointed. We were excited because Harry Belafonte was the executive producer of it. So this was hip, a real Hollywood cat doing it. Little disappointing, but good. Looking back at it now, I really enjoyed the film. Then you had Crush Groove, a little closer. I think people were disappointed with the casting in that as well, as far as the lead and all of that. All good. But the one that was really disappointing, and I'm like, if they can't make a hit movie, who the heck is Kid and Play to think they can make a hit movie? And that was Run DMC when they did Tougher Than Leather.
Mhm.
So here's Kid and Play making money like we've never seen before, experiencing things like we've never seen before. Why ruin it? Do a movie and it's whack, that could hurt. And then the money we're making, the money they were offering us for that wasn't making up a lot for what we were making touring. We got hit records, we good. So I thought. But the close tripod or the tripod between me, Herbie, and Kid was we had a rule called majority rules, and they outvoted me. And that's one thing in life that I'm so glad that I was outvoted on.
Yeah, yeah.
I had
Thank
no
you.
idea it was going to be, but that was my reason. It wasn't like I didn't want to do movies. I didn't want to do that movie at
Yeah.
that time, and I didn't even think I could ever do a movie. Period. Low
So
self-esteem on my part.
did they want Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff for the film at first, or?
No, the directors and the producer, Reggie Hudlin and Warrington Hudlin, before the movie even was brought to New Line Cinema, they would roll up on us. This is when I was saying no to it. They would roll up to us at industry parties. Like what was famous back then, and I missed those days, some of it, was you had a lot of independent labels. And when it came time for like the 4th of July, but especially around the holidays, the Christmas, winter holidays, they would have these industry parties. And man, those parties were the bomb. But they would be there and they would kept coming to us saying, we got this idea for a movie. And they, whenever we run into them, they would give us an update on what was going on. And I wouldn't pay it any mind. I'm like, where the girls at? So finally, when they got a deal with New Line Cinema, they came to New Line Cinema saying, we want Kid and Play to do this movie. New Line Cinema didn't know Kid and Play. They weren't on the street level. They're like whoever made it crossover.
Yeah.
So they were just trying to be smart businessmen and saying, hedge their bet. If we're going to move forward with this kind of film, why don't we stack the chips so it's more favorable? So if Will Smith and Jeff, our dudes, are in it, they feel as though it's a better bet on the movie. So when Reggie and Warrington introduced us to New Line Cinema, we did a cold read and a lot of stuff they would shout out. It was like this office. It wasn't nothing like no movie studio or nothing. And they asked us to do all these different scenes they would shout out and we had to act it out. Kid and I know I did, felt as though we were horrible. We were whack, say goodbye, ain't gonna be no movie. But what happened was, it was around lunchtime. Or it was lunchtime for the company, but at that time, school was letting out around the city. One of the VIPs, nice guy, said, listen, I'll walk you guys down. Thanks for coming. When he walked us down, all the schools were letting out. All the kids knew of us because of our music videos and stuff. And they, oh, what's the word for it?
Bum rush.
all of that, you know. And the guy, he saw this and he saw the way these kids were, and it was like the Beatles or the Jackson Five, whatever you want to call it.
Look at
And he
God.
went back upstairs to tell them, no, we got to get these guys. These guys are the ones. So
Wow.
that's how it happened.
What is
But it
the
wasn't like some people try to make it.
wow? What is that? What is the happening of that? That's crazy. That was nothing but God up in this piece.
Mhm.
So I know it dropped March 9th, 1990. So me being a professional battle rapper, you know, y'all had one of my favorite parts in the film. So did y'all write your own raps? Did y'all come together and write it, or how did that come about?
So Kid and I's relationship, Kid I and Herbie's relationship, Herbie beats and music and tracks, Kid the lyrics, me the look, our outfits, the album covers, the themes for the music videos, those were our lanes. But we all had a say so in helping the mold whatever those things were. So it was much easier for us to concentrate on our lanes. And if we wanted to add something that somebody brought, like I might make something, kids said, well, can you make mine in a different color? Stuff like that. If he wrote something, I said, I'd feel better if I said it this way. With Herbie, all of us, you know, we had that. Even with the girls with Salt and Pepper, we were like a unit and stuff. So as far as that rap goes, I know that when Reggie had presented that scene to us, to Kid in particular, Kid had to go to work and come up with that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you know, they did rap battles. They was judging y'all battles online and everything. Everybody was actually putting it together. So you think Kid tried to right to win?
Well, no, he was supposed to. That's,
Okay.
that was it. See, a lot of people forget it's a movie.
Yeah.
His character is supposed to win because
Okay.
it validates his character to not be this nerdy guy, and he wins in the battle. So yeah, he had to win. Yeah.
People had you winning online, don't you? I just want
No,
you to.
no, and I get it. But you know, one of the things I don't think a lot of people recognize, like, and we do it in our live shows, is that, you know, I knew, like, the way it was written, Kid had to win the battle. So when you see my facial expressions and stuff
Oh
in
yeah.
it, looking humiliated and
Yeah.
embarrassed, they
Yeah.
didn't write that in the script. I did that on purpose so that I could really sell the scene that he won. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but no, I appreciate people feeling that. But all the way around, you know, Kid gets the credit. He wrote, you know, the majority of the rhymes and stuff. But yeah, but I appreciate people feel that way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so when the landscape of music started changing, did y'all ever have a talk about conforming to that,
Nah.
or then so what made you, like, I remember I saw somewhere you said life was getting overwhelming and everything. So what caused that?
Well, let me back up a little bit on something you did say to correct myself. We did somewhat, but we didn't do it to the going to the extreme where it was like not us. One of our albums that I love is called Face the Nation, and we were addressing economic and social concerns at that time. It may be considered, well, we had hits off that album, but it wasn't our most acclaimed album because we did, well, matter of fact, we had a record on there called Slippin', and it's the story of a crack dealer, you know, and people were used to hearing that from Kid and I. We even actually did a video on it, and my concept was that we were crackheads, but were coming out of our coffins in a graveyard. And I remember when we were opening our live shows with that, and it would be such a silence in the audience, it wasn't getting that response. And it wasn't so much because it was whack. They just wasn't interested in seeing Kid and Play like that or kind of dealing with that. They wanted to keep us in that party thing, which I could appreciate and understand. But for me, you know, we weren't going to be comfortable as far as whatever new wave of type of music and artistry was coming, let that, you know, run its course, and maybe we'll fall back or whatever the case may be. But no, we weren't interested in conforming that extremely.
Okay. So back to what I said previously about the life overwhelming, like what caused that and what caused you to get into later on, I guess, gospel rap?
Well, there was a lot going on. I had businesses, I had barbershops, I had a clothing boutique. I'm Kid and Play. I'm Play the actor. I'm Play the recording artist. I'm Play the one who's touring. Play that just got married, have another son on the way. Just a lot of stuff going on. And in the immortal words of Human League, I'm only human. And it just got to the point where all of my thirst was quenched, all of my itches were scratched. You know, I know and knew everyone that you would want to imagine to know. I mean, being at Jordan's house on the regular sometimes and knowing him and Tyson and Denzel and everywhere you could. I mean, we knew it at all. Dating, you know, all of that kind of stuff like that. It's like it got to the point where it wasn't special anymore, and just to keep it up was becoming very overwhelming. So it just got to the point where it was just time for me to like fall back. And now that I've been exposed to everything I've been exposed to, maybe it's time to just pick one. And at the time, I really wanted to be into my marriage, you know, being a newlywed at the time. And then finding out, as I'm finding out the entertainment business isn't all it's sought out to be, thinking it was going to be everything to me. It was going to be fulfilling. It was going to be it. I'm good, done it, only to find out not true. Because once you become number one, you got to, it's not hard. Well, it's work taking being number one, but it's harder staying number one.
Mm.
It's easy getting that car you want or that home you want, but have you thought about what it's going to take to sustain it and maintain those things? That's got to keep going. So I was thinking, you know, it just got, you know, crazy for me. And then at a time where things started not going well, I wanted to end my life. But I had a praying grandmother. My father had turned his life around, and I became maybe desperately interested in this person they called Jesus Christ. And as I explored, learned more, he was and is the answer. I thought, have your cake and eat it too. I was not a gospel rapper. I think I did one or two things, but you're still trying to find yourself, whatever. But I wanted to take my platform or my energy or connections and help put what they called gospel rap, Christian rap, holy rap, help put it on the map. You can enjoy your hip hop, but responsibly. So that was my way of thinking at the time.
Okay. So tell me more about the and I Dance documentary that you did you produce it?
I did everything
Okay.
pretty
So
much.
what I used to love about, like you said, the even I saw the trailer of the documentary. I haven't got to watch it yet, but I love how back then, like dancing, you didn't have to take off all your clothes. It was about fashion, it was about telling a story. So why was creating this documentary important to you, and what made you want to do it?
I'm in a stage of my life right now, among other things, where I like being a philanthropist. Being a philanthropist doesn't always mean you have the money to help people uh, make their visions and ideas and aspirations come true. There's other ways you can do that. In my case, it could be money, but it could also be other things to help. But to be in a situation where, you know, we're into this thing now, which is a good thing, where people say give them their flowers while they're alive. So
Mhm.
I knew that there was a community out there that never really got the acknowledgement or the exposure that they should have. And to have, excuse me, the stories, the testimonies that they have, I knew and proven true were fascinating, and that at least let this piece documentary exist. It's been very well received, doing very well. But for it to be on a time capsule, when I first had the idea to do it, I was introduced to another movie, independent movie documentary at the time called 20 Feet from Stardom. And that gave me confirmation that I was on the right path to eventually put this kind of documentary together. But what 20 Feet from Stardom is about, and I highly recommend any and everyone to check it out. As a matter of fact, I think it won an Oscar or something like that. But it's the story. The reason why it's called 20 Feet from Stardom is because, like with Luther Vandross, uh, Anita Baker, whatever singers, Mariah Carey you want to pick, the standard, the rule of thumb is the background singers are 20 feet away from them. That's always the way the live concerts are. So that's why it was called 20 Feet from Stardom. And it's the story of all those background singers, their stories of who they sung for, who they sung with, parts and songs that you thought were the stars that sung it, they really sung that part. The backstories is phenomenal. So that gave me even more inspiration to eventually, which took like 7 years to do, to make And I Danced.
Okay, I want to watch that. Where can I stream it at, or where can people stream
Oh,
it?
I'll send you the link, but and see, that's another thing. This is where the philanthropy comes in. I did not make the movie to make money off of it. So another childhood friend of mine by the name of Ron Lawrence, who is one of Diddy's original hitmen, he's the one that produced Biggie's Hypnotized. He's the one that produced Jay-Z's Where I'm From. He's the one that did a lot of hit records for Mary J. Blige. You name it, he has literally a wall of plaques. I'm not talking about no 3 or 4 plaques. I mean, he covers a full wall from the ceiling to the floor. So he decided to create this platform for aspiring filmmakers and independent filmmakers called Streamwaves, STREAMWAZE.com, streamways.com. And I didn't want to sell this piece. I didn't want money to be in between the viewers and the documentary. So some people called me crazy, like, why didn't you put it on Netflix? Why didn't you put it on Hulu? And I'm like, no, I'm not interested in going through the complication of music usage and this, that, and this. This is free.
Oh,
It's my gift to audiences for inspiration, and it's my gift to all the dancers for me on behalf of artists, saying thank you to them. So that's where
I definitely want to see that. Please send me that link.
Mhm.
I say that you did fashion too. I didn't know you said you did Martin Lawrence on Def Comedy Jam, his first.
I didn't say I did. I didn't say I did it. I did do it.
Yes, I know you did it.
The first 6 shows that he did that put the show on the map, those outfits are mine. If you look at the crest that he's wearing on those outfits, you'll see an emblem there. It stands for foreplay. The Roman numeral 4, PLAI, with an accent over the I, is foreplay. Yeah, I did that. I did stuff for Michael Jordan. I did the Salt and Pepper Jackets, did Kid and Play stuff. I've done stuff for quite a few people. I don't want to leave anybody out, but yeah, I did a lot of those things.
Right. So what do you think about the council culture that's going on now, the Dave Chappelle thing, how the communities is trying to silence your freedom of speech and everything?
Dave's our dude. We've known Dave for like so long. If you look at a video, my first video I officially directed, it was called Bounce. It was a track produced by the legendary Beat Nuts. Dave Chappelle is in that with another cat, David Edwards, who was on the original cast of The Real World. They are in it, but we've always been friends for a long time. And Dave and Chris Rock are today's Dick Gregory and Lenny Bruce, social satire. They're brilliant at it. And if they didn't wake people up, they wouldn't be doing their jobs. As far as your question in regards to cancel culture, you know, a friend and pastor friend of mine, Dr. A.R. Bernard, said something that never left me, among a couple of other things. When you take a truth to an extreme, it becomes error. So it's like, you believe in something, it is the truth, but when you just take it like too far, it can become error. So I think that's where cancel culture may be at. They may have something where there's smoke, there's fire, they say. But when it takes to the point, maybe when you are destroying a livelihood or income or work situation, and some people maybe that should be, but not with everyone. What I should have said before saying all that, I really don't know a lot about it, maybe as I should, but from what I do know about it, I do think sometimes it has its place, but at the same time, I think you could take things too far. And, you know, uh, when you take a truth to an extreme, it becomes an error in some cases.
I got 4 more questions for you. What do you think about the vaccine that's going on? Some people like take it, some people like you messing with my rights. What do you think about the whole mandate vaccine and all that stuff?
Everybody has their rights. Everybody has their freedom. Everyone has their will. Um, I have gotten my shots. It took a while for me to decide to get them because I wanted them, to the best of my knowledge, to work the kinks out. I wasn't interested in being anybody's guinea pig. But when I felt better about it, in addition to the fact that because of what I do, I knew it was going to be headed to the fact that it's going to be mandated in some situations. Like I've done television semi recently. I had to deal with that stick going up my nose literally every day for like 2 months, working on Will Packard's BET Plus is Bigger. Um, Things Kid and I do, stuff I do on our own. You know, it's like now when you go to a restaurant, you got to show proof of that. So with all of that being said, I had an interesting conversation with my barber because I was concerned about him and the fact that he had so much traffic coming out of his place where some people would wear masks and a lot wouldn't wear masks. Some would get the vaccine, some not. And I'd say to him when he was wrestling with it, I don't tell people you should, or I think you should, but I would like for you to consider this. Look at what you do and look at how vulnerable you are to so many people. And you don't know where they've been and what they're doing and how reckless they are or how not reckless they are. You don't know. So why leave yourself open like that? And if something happens, your family is counting on you making money with your shop that does well. So then the Lord gave me this interesting perspective to give him, and he ended up getting the vaccines after it. I said, there was this person that was drowning and they're praying to God, God, please save me. Lord, please save me. I'm drowning. I don't know how to swim. So all of a sudden this little raggedy rowboat comes by and they're like, come on in. Come on in. We got room enough for you to come in here. And the person's like, no, 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 no. God is going to save me. God is going to save me. Go on. They're like, all right. Now, a bigger boat, more fancier, maybe like a yacht type thing comes and they're like, hey, come on, get in, we'll save you. Come on. No, no, I'm not getting in. God is going to save me. All right. Now this big cruise ship comes by. They see him. Hey, we're going to throw you, the whatchamacallits and you get them lifesavers and grab hold and we're here to save you. No, no, God is going to save me. Go on. I'm good. Go. The person finally drowns. He sees God. God sees him. And he's mad at God or she's mad at God. What happened? I prayed to you. I counted on you. You said you was going to save me. How did you let me drown? God says to him, listen, I sent a boat, I sent a yacht, and I sent a cruise ship. You said no to all three of them. What do you want me to do? So that's the way I feel at times in this right here. It's like, all right, for those that are believers, and I am a believer, I don't call myself a Christian because I don't want to be in the box of someone's perception of a Christian, but I am a believer in my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I just asked a sober question, like, how do you see yourself getting saved in this? God is in the science. We give taking a truth to an extreme, we tend to start worshiping science, but God allows it, or he's the one that, here's another thing I'll use. You're building a house and you use a hammer and you use a saw and all of that stuff. The house gets done. But now the people love it and they want to find out who to give the credit to. And they want to give the credit to the saw and to the hammer and to all of it. It's like, no, it was a human being that used those things as tools. Exactly. God uses things as tools. Even when you say to God in your prayer, use me, Lord, use me for your will. 9 times out of 10, I'll venture to say 9.99% of the time, God himself literally isn't going to come and use you. He's going to use you through people. Right. My prayer and my discernment is, I don't mind being used. I'm just not interested in being misused. So that's my thing. I know it's long-winded. People can discern it and feel it for what it is. But for whatever you're saying no to, and for whatever you're saying yes to, really think about it. Really, really think about, put it into a manifestation. What does that look like? Even when I'm dealing with people and they say marriage, or say this, well, okay, what does a marriage look like? If you give me what takes place on a daily routine when you're in a marriage, because I don't think we think about these important things in our life. So it's like, why are you not taking the vaccine? Oh, because of this political party stands for that, whatever. It's like, oh, you're being tricked by the enemy. because now you're into something that really doesn't even have anything to do with that. But if you find that information that the vaccine is no good, I really understand pregnant women being reluctant. I understand people. No, I do. I understand pregnant people being reluctant. I hear you. I understand people with pre-existing conditions. I hear you. But you know what I'm saying? We got to pick our spots.
I got you. Okay, what was I guess a challenge you faced in the industry, and what was your highlight of the industry to you?
I'm sorry, come again?
What was a challenge you faced in the entertainment industry, and what was one of your greatest highlights, in the industry?
Challenges would be keeping it up. Highlight would be it's too many to just say one. I've met and know some fascinating people. One that comes quickly to mind, I wouldn't say it was the number one. I know, Kid and I know Suzanne DePass. For those who don't know who Suzanne DePass is, she was very instrumental in the success of Motown. She was very instrumental in the success of the Jackson Five. She was Berry Gordy's right-hand person. Um, what she's done, who she is, queen, real queen all day. We were in LA, or I was in LA, Kid lives in LA, for a series of meetings. It's time for us to have lunch. And she's sitting next to me. And I feel like God taps me on the shoulders and go, pay attention to where you're at. Like, really pay attention. So I'm looking and I'm like, yo, I'm sitting next to, now we're friends now, but I'm having this out of body experience and I'm going, I'm sitting next to Suzanne DePass. And as I'm thinking that, she goes, pass me a menu. And then I say, yo, in my head, I'm like, yo, Suzanne DePass just said my name, asked me to pass her a menu. Then I told her that out loud. She goes, oh, shut up and pass me the menu. And even with another friend, Big Daddy Kane, there's been times where, we're just hanging out for whatever reason. And we're talking, sitting in the seat. And in my head, I'm like, yo, I'm sitting here kicking it. I've known him for a long time with Big Daddy Kane. And then I say it out loud and he'll be like, shut up, man. Stuff like that. It's just me not taking life for granted. So it's been so many highlights, friendships being made, experiences, things this cat did that was out there in them streets, putting his life on the line, putting myself in harm's way, and talk about the generosity, the favor, the grace, the mercy of God. Back then in times where I could tell, which I'm not, I've told them before, but for the sake of time, I won't, is that at least 3 times off the top of my dome, things could have went left really, really bad, resulting in a death and resulting in life in prison. But they did.
I'm interviewing Christopher Martin.
Shut up. Clever, but shut up.
Okay, my last 2 questions for you. So what advice would you have to any artist, filmmaker, anyone trying to come in the industry now, trying to do it on their own?
Don't quit, but really ask yourself again, what are you really doing it for? Because if you're not doing it for what it should really be about, and only you can answer that question to who this would, be of interest to, is that if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, the stuff you're going to be confronted with, it's going to break you down. Because you have to love your art and what you feel strongly you have to contribute to entertainment and the world of art. You want to do it so bad you'd be willing to do it for free. But don't. But there's times you can do it for free because it'll lead to, you only be penny wise and pound foolish. But if you are doing it for the wrong reasons, the things that are waiting for you on your path is going to be tormenting. It's going to be miserable. But if you really bout that and you love it, and you'll feel a certain way with rejection. It'll be more rejection than acceptance. And that's what leads most people to substance abuse, because we weren't really designed and built to get the amount of rejection you get in this business. And you get a lot of it. I can't tell you how many times doors were slammed in our face and insulting remarks. Like, cats didn't even want to get our name right. They were calling us Sid and Clay instead of Kid and Play because they didn't, they weren't paying attention to what the name was. But so many times, and I thank God for the friendship with Kid, because even before hooking up with Herbie, we were with another guy named Charlie Casanova. Charlie Casanova at that time had the city on lock as far as the nightclubs, predominantly white clubs. So we got exposed to another part of the world being in those clubs because he would be the main DJ there and he would always have us on the guest list. So we would be led into places we normally wouldn't be led into, which exposes to a world. It blessed me because when I got introduced to the Roxy, where Africa Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation did, and the Fun House and Club 1018 and all of those, I saw Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue white people dancing with my brothers and sisters. They're in their $5,000 Brooks Brothers suits and all of this kind of stuff like that, dancing with cats in the Pumas and the Adidas and the Lee jeans and all of that. And I'm seeing a new world. But we went through so much rejection, for those who aren't finished being developed yet, knowing who you are and being strong in who you are. Substance abuse is very tempting and it helps medicate the rejection, the alcohol, the drugs, or whatever. And next thing you know, you're hooked. And so really do the research, really ask yourself the hard question: why do I want to do this? And that would be my advice.
Real advice. All right, my last question. When it is all said and done, when you are long gone from the earth, what is it do you want people to know about
Where did you
Christopher
get that
White?
question from?
I always ask my people this question. I
I've,
made it up.
I've asked that question. I ran a news organization, Brand News in Life,
Mhm.
and no, Brand News, and I started that thing in 2005 maybe, and that was like my question.
Wow, that's
But
crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I mean, if I gave you links to my older shows, you'll see that in there.
Wow,
And
that's crazy.
people,
I always end my
yeah,
interviews with that
yeah,
question.
and it would always touch me because whenever I asked anybody, and there was other well-known people that are like, "Wow, that's a good question." Um, for me, I'm a geek and a nerd. I love art. I'm a multimedia. I'm into technology big time. So I'm still on this quest to, I have this vision in my head for something I want to put together that takes, I hate this phrase because it's so overused, but to take the story of the culture of hip hop to another level. But what's in my heart as a person is is no other feeling like helping and giving. I'm not I'm not good at it in regards to doing it as much as I should, but the opportunities that the Lord will give me a hint or a cue or a tap or a whisper to pay attention to something that's before me and to be able to act on it. So for me, I just like and want to be in that position to have what I need to have to be able to pay for someone's food. Like I heard the story of, I think it was a famous athlete, I don't know, remember what his name was, where he would just randomly pay for strangers' meals, like a full family ordering something at a restaurant or something, but he pays for it quietly. He leaves. He doesn't want the people to know that it was paid for. I like doing that. I do that. Um, I like when I'm in a position that I'm sensing that this would mean a lot to someone to for this to be done, or whatever it may be. If it's in my power or I have the resources and the opportunity or the means to do it, to do it. So that's me personally. So I'm just at a real interesting place in my life, euphorically, so to speak, in regards to still figuring me out. But I'm no longer about or of that mentality of it being necessarily about what am I going to get out of it. I can't even remember the last time I asked anybody for a hookup. I've gained the reality and how much it means to support people, like, help buy their product or to buy whatever they want. no more, let me get one for free or cheaper or whatever the case may be. So, you know, supporting others and helping others, you know, to be a part. I see we got an unstable warning just came up with the internet. So I don't know if you want to,
Okay. Do you have
yeah,
anything coming up,
just
or
popped up.
you got anything coming up? Anything you working
Say
on?
what?
You got anything coming up? Anything you want the people to know you
Um,
working
well, and I danced a documentary. That's still pretty much new. I'm literally right now at an expo. The kid and I are doing. We're part of like the Comic-Con thing now because of the Funko dolls, and at one time with us being a Marvel comic book series and stuff. So we got that, and then we have a show in New York right after this. But when I'm in New York, I'm going to visit a charter school that's interested in me coming to be an educator there. So that's pretty exciting. Oh, thank you for. I would have forgot about this, and people with it would have been upset. I just launched an official nonprofit. It's called the Playground Digital Arts and Design Workshop, and where it is working with the young at heart students in regards to developing their creative skills in multimedia ways, cinematography, drawing, public writing, all of that, to develop it to achieve whatever their projects are or their designs or whatever their aspirations is. So working with the schools with that, with HBCUs and stuff like that. So it's called, like I said, the Playground Digital Arts and Design Workshop. And I feel like I'm leaving something out, but yeah, and I danced is the most recent that I'm proud of. Still working on that. That I'm thinking about turning into a series because there's more to the stories. And some of those dancers, they have children to dance now. One of them that's featured in it actually dances for, oh, this is where it's said, but I don't know the names. Lotto. Does it sound familiar?
on? I don't know.
Female rapper. I think her name is Lotto. She's doing a thing, and I know she did the think she did the MTV Music Awards like before going to commercial and after and some other stuff. But I hear her name pop up quite a bit. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm just enjoying life. I'm trying to enjoy the fruits of my labor, and thank God that I have a chance to go around some things again and really appreciate them and deal with them for what they are instead of just taking for granted that, you know, oh, I'll be back. No thing. This is really whatever. You know, that stuff almost got threatened never to happen again. So to be traveling again, hanging out with good old friends and stuff again in the industry and out is a blessing to me. And ultimately, the relationship between my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to have been a for the Lord to say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
Well, I want to thank you, Christopher Martin. Like you said, I feel like success is in, I guess, in the eye of the beholder or whatever. And
It
I
is.
feel successful. Like I'm talking to someone who I grew up watching House Party and Class Act. And for you to do this interview with me, you don't know me from a can of paint. You know, it touches my heart, and seeing the person you are allows me to be like, makes me want to be like, okay, if the next person come to me who feel I'm up there or something, I want to do something for them. So I appreciate you being the person you are. And I just,
The movie is called "Pay It Forward." I don't know if
okay.
you ever heard of it.
Yes, I have.
That's it right there. Pay it forward.
So I thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for your time. I will uh definitely let you know when we drop it on the Narrative Matters, the article. I'm gonna write the article, and like I
Yeah, I'll
said, thank
send you
you.
the link to the movie. It's
Yeah, I
free.
want to watch
Yeah,
it.
I'll send you the link to the movie. It's free. And you know, thank you. You know, it's like, you know, that what we're doing here, this is what I was talking about in regards to the philanthropist situation. I know where you're at now. I know what it could mean, not because it's me, but just in regards to me being able to invest in someone, to be able to invest. It doesn't always have to be money. It could be just you, your time, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. But I see you. I see you. I see you with the Kango on.
You know, hey, this
Yeah.
my style, man. Everybody be like, where you get that from? I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
I got my old fashioned too. But thank you again, Christopher Martin, man. I appreciate, like, this was like one of the highlights of my, career. Like I said, watching, being able to interview a person who I watched on TV coming up. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, the
thank
pleasure
you.
is all mine, and unto you, Philippians 1:6.
All right. All right. I will be in touch.
Check it out.
All right.
All
Bye.
right.
Peace out.
All right, man. God bless.
God bless you.